It's George. How are we doing, George, my man?
All good, guys. How are you guys?
All good, all good.
Good, George. Good to see you.
So obviously we were just talking backstage, and you got to see a bit of the game. What were your thoughts, George?
Sorry, Brian. 1 second, George. Sorry, Vinny. I can hear the other guest as well.
There we go.
That's it.
There
Great.
we go.
Cheers.
So George, what were your thoughts of the game?
Initially disappointed that Jed Spence wasn't on the team sheet, but I understand that he was ill with some sort of a bug. So hopefully that is the case, and he's not. There's not anything more sinister going on in the background. But it's I mean, look, it was okay for what it was. I guess my main reflections were that Matt Doherty was obviously quite sort of prominent in the game, as he's been with the other two friendlies as well. So things are looking bright for him. I was quite pleasantly surprised with Matassar as well, actually. He looked really fluid around the pitch, looked quite at home in that environment. So I've just got my fingers crossed that he's someone who can sort of grow into the squad. Fingers crossed. Sanchez was Sanchez. You know, it's. I think the more and more I see him, the more and more disappointed I get, considering the start that he had at the club. But yeah, look, it was a run out. We got to see a bit of Sonny, reintroducing them into the squad and onto the first team. Kulu had a decent showing, I guess. I think he play the full 90 minutes. Actually, I don't recall.
He went off. He went off it near the end. I think he came on for my boy Alfie. He didn't see out the 90 minutes. He was a late sub.
Yeah.
I mean, it was good to see some of the youngsters mixed in there, and as I said, fingers crossed that we see some of them growing into the squad and making a bit of an impact.
Did any of the young players impress you enough to deserve being in the starting? Well, not the starting, but the 16-man squad for Brentford.
No, not for Brentford. Not for Brentford. I think the boy White I've seen a few times. I think he had a half decent start to the game, but then sort of petered out. I was really hoping that he would sort of at least get a shot on target, just something to give him a bit more confidence. He had that sort of flash shot across Schmeichel that sort of I think he was a bit surprised to get the ball in that area by from what I remember. But no, I don't really see anybody kind of breaking through. That's sort of why I was really hoping to see Jed Spence tonight and trying to get him more involved. I don't think you can take too much away from that game, to be perfectly honest, other than just getting a bit, a few minutes on the pitch for some of the players who were injured pre World Cup. Getting more minutes in for Kulu, getting some, his Sonny's boots back on as well. Get Højbjerg more involved. I think it's just a reintegration exercise. I'm still a bit concerned that we're lacking that creativity really in midfield. Bissouma for me still hasn't quite done it. I don't think he's hitting the heights I expected with all the anticipation of him joining the club. I'm still needing to see a creative midfield player, just someone who's going to make things happen in there. We don't quite seem to have a player like that. Brian Hill, I think, had a decent showing, but again, I sometimes feel that he gets the ball and he just, he wants to do what comes naturally, and that's run at players instead of trying to link up the play.
Yep.
But maybe, again, that it's got to be a case of time and trying to build up that upper body strength to be able to compete with some of these bigger players.
So George, on that as well, let's break this down. Obviously, the first half display, second half. Was you surprised to see that the high press was working, the pressure was working? We were moving the ball a lot more freely than we normally do. Like when it comes to the first team, it was like night and day to what first half performances normally are, and it shows we can do it. Obviously, it wasn't the starting 11, but I really enjoyed what we were doing in that first half.
Yeah, I think we certainly looked the more accomplished side in the first half. I just find that final ball in the last third is just lacking, and it's almost like a dysfunction within that central midfield position, in that we don't seem to have anybody who, if they do put their foot on the ball, can ping it into a dangerous position. I think we can do that. I think we can pass the ball around. I think we can look good doing it. But it's a case of, if you then don't do anything with it, you're only giving the other team confidence to run at you, because there's only so long that you can do that for, and a team be concerned. And then when they see that you're not getting anywhere, they're just going to run at you and give you problems. And I think that's. I didn't see anything there really that said to me that we could do that for a whole 90 minutes and be dangerous doing it, although it did look good. It did look good.
George, I've got a question for you. So the news coming out of Spurs this week, and everything should be taken with a pinch of salt with these journalists, in my opinion, whether people think they're highly credible or not. The contract negotiations with Conte are now being described as less optimistic. And the reports are there's not a lot of money available to spend in January. I said at the start of the season that I believe the outcome of the Premier League will all depend on what happens in January. And I think Spurs will be in the mix going into the World Cup, which is what happened. We're in the top four. And for me, it's crunch time now. Not in the summer, now. Because Newcastle are on the up. Man United, Arsenal are on the up. We need to act now. Minimum guarantee top four again, and at least give it a real go at trying to win trophies. So if we don't do something this window, I think we're going to be left behind by the competition. And once injuries and fatigue kick in, it could cause us problems. Well, it's going to cause us problems with rotation. So that all said, Conte not signing a contract going into the January transfer window, why on earth are the club going to go and invest in players to support the team in January if they don't know that the manager has committed to the players that they're going to bring in January for the longer term? And likewise, why should Conte commit to a contract unless, as we've heard many times, he needs those assurances? So it's almost like they're both waiting to see who goes first. But whilst they're both waiting to see who goes first, nothing's getting done, which I believe will impact our transfer window quite considerably and not necessarily in the right direction. So what's your take on all of that, George? Where are you at as a fan?
I just have to say before you answer that, George, congratulations on the world's longest question. You have broken the records. There are records being broken today. Sorry, George, just had to state that. Over to you, my friend.
Listen, I actually thought that it was very eloquently put, Brian.
Thank you, George.
I'm not denying anything that he said wasn't brilliant, but man, that was a long question.
Listen, okay, firstly, if you predicted that at the beginning of the season, then hats off to you, because it was a difficult one with the World Cup.
Yeah.
Where it was. And the answer to the question is yes, it is absolutely, totally pivotal. And yet again, this fantastic board that we've got have managed to create a chicken and egg situation where it's like a Mexican standoff, and it's just crazy that we just seem to be always hitting the self-destruct button, because it's not a healthy place to be, is it? When you're having a Mexican standoff between the board and the manager, it seems to be every single managerial appointment that you've got. Am I overly surprised? Do you know what? This time I actually am, because I thought that, you can only be so stupid You know, and to bring in a world-class manager like Conte, who has obviously made an impact, and then you have a look and you say to yourself, look, every fan walking into the stadium has to admit that our squad is just not quite deep enough to compete up there and make top four this season. You've got Arsenal, who have got a very young squad and who are running riot at the moment. I'm not saying they're going to win the league, but I'm pretty sure that they are. I think they're slightly beyond us in the odds to make top four.
Well, they've improved on last season, haven't they, George? So far,
For sure.
Well, no, I think they've not only have they improved. I mean, I think that they are playing with a
swagger,
with the flair and the swagger that wasn't quite there last season. You could tell last season that they lacked that little bit of confidence, and they seem to have gained that. I think that they've got that stability in defence now that allows the younger players to really express themselves. So, you know, they're confident in their back four, they're confident of their way to play. And I'm not so sure that we are. And look, if you don't let in goals, then you're more likely to win games. I mean, it's, you know, it's not rocket science. But coming forward to what we're doing, I mean, we need we need 2 or 3 players, and we're not talking about just any player. Let's just get a player just for the sake of getting them now. We need players who are able to create, who are going to have that slight spark. Now, I think what I'm hoping in the back of my mind is that we can pull off somewhere along the line another Kulusevski, Bentancur coup, where all the fans turn around and look at each other and say, who the hell are these guys? And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, we end up with 2 world-class players that every club, it would seem, in the world now want. So I can't deny that something like that can happen, but overall my take is that it's a very concerning situation to be in when the board doesn't quite seem to have the confidence in the manager, despite the fact that they have no experience and have no track record of any type of success in running a football club. Other than building a magnificent stadium, which, take my hat off to, is a magnificent stadium. It could be converted more into a football stadium for my liking, but still, it is a magnificent stadium. What I think we need, though, is a bit less banter from other fans saying that we don't have many trophies to put in this magnificent stadium. And I don't think any Spurs fan can seriously say that once that question comes up, when we're discussing discussing the club with other supporters, that we're not that little bit ashamed that we just don't have the silverware to adorn what is a great club, a great stadium, and with some great players. And it's quite simply a case of underfunding over so many years of the first team squad. And, you know, I just don't think that there's much of a question anymore to it. So to answer Stel's long question, sorry about the long answer, but
it was justified.
You know, I do have fundamental concerns looking at the bigger, that big picture. And I'm not quite sure that unless we do go out and spend a bit of money here and spend money on the right players, I very much fear that Conte will say, do you know what, hang it, I'm going to go to a club that actually wants success, as opposed to sitting around waiting for you talking about success.
There we go. All right, George. So
thank you, George.
Thank you very much indeed for coming on. Are you going to the Portsmouth game, George?
I am going to try. As you know, things are a little bit tricky for me at the moment. I'm gonna kind of see if I can get to the Portsmouth game. I'm gonna try and get to the New Year's Day game as well. So,
hopefully I'll see you at the Portsmouth game. I'm here for the Villa game, but we'll speak very, very soon, George. And have a good night and Merry Christmas to you,
George. Merry Christmas to you guys. Yeah, take care.
Kala Christoyenna.
Agreed with whatever you said.
That's Greek Cypriot for leave you out.
Oh, there we go.
I'm joking. No, I'm joking. It's Merry Christmas.
And Brian, happy
Yes.
Hanukkah as well, yeah?
Thank you very much, kind
Happy
sir,
Hanukkah.
and we'll speak very, very soon.